Welcome back to the Crafter's Cauldron. Today I'm going to be showing you the start of my Kero-Chan pattern and a brief overview of how you do an amigurumi with the Westgate stitch. I've got a 3.75mm hook and some generic worsted weight yarn. And we're going to start the head of Kero-Chan so that I can show you how I do the Westgate stitch for amigurumi. The first thing I'm going to do is do a magic ring and chain 1, and then turn that around and put my fingers inside, and then we're going to do 6 single crochets in the magic ring. Okay. So once we've got our 6 single crochet, I'm going to pull the tail of the magic ring and close that. And then from here on, we're not going to join any rounds. We're just going to keep working in a spiral all the way around. So as you can see, we've got our first starter chain and then our first actual single crochet. So for the Westgate stitch, what you want to do, and this will be easier to see on future rounds, but you've got the loops on top that you would normally go through, and then you've got the 2 vertical posts. So what we're going to do is actually go through the middle of those 2 vertical posts, and on the back, you're coming through the middle of the 2 vertical posts. So you've got your first loop, your back loop, and then your third loop, and then you've got 2 vertical posts, so you're coming up through there. So for our second round, we're going to increase all the way around for a total of 12 stitches. So on the increase, you're going back through those same 2 vertical posts. So for the next stitch, I'll isolate it there. You can see we've got the loop that you would normally work into, and you've got your 2 little V right there with the vertical posts. I'm going to insert in there, and you're coming up front loop, this is your back loop here, your third loop, and 2 vertical posts. You're coming in between those, pulling up a loop, finishing that single crochet, and then for the increase, we're going to do another stitch, pull up a loop, and finish off that second single crochet. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'll go ahead and finish this round. It does kind of help as you're working sometimes to flip your work just at the finish of a stitch, just to make sure that you're coming through those 2 posts. Generally, if you're going through the front 2 posts, you'll naturally go through the back 2 posts, but occasionally it gets a little bit off. And you might, so I'm going through the front 2 posts, but I'm coming out next to the back 2. So you want to reset, go back through the front 2, and make sure you're coming out between those posts. It looks like, I don't know, the back of a single crochet, it looks like a little temple or a little house. So you're going into the doorway there. That's always how I think about it for some reason. So now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we're back at our first increase stitch here. And if you feel like your magic ring is getting a little loose, you can tighten that. So for our next round, we want to increase 1 Westgate stitch all the way around, so we're increasing 6 times evenly around. So for that first stitch, I'm gonna go through the center, and sometimes it takes a little wiggle as you get your tension used to it. I just find that the Westgate stitch, I'm not having to try really hard to keep my tension. As you can see here, there's nothing. I'm not wrapping it around anything. So it's a lot easier, even though I'm doing a lot of flipping back and forth and it looks really fiddly. I find that this is way easier on the hands when I was younger, when I first started doing amigurumi, there were points where I was prepping for shows where I would be unable to hold a pencil. I nearly gave myself some pretty bad burns trying to make ramen because my wrist just utterly collapsed and it just spilled a pot of boiling water on myself. So I find that this Westgate stitch, I almost feel like since I'm checking, I'm using my other hand, my left hand, to do part of the movement instead of doing it all with this hand, and so it really helps distribute the tension a little bit. So now we finished our second round. So you can see we've got an increase and one Westgate stitch, an increase, one Westgate stitch. We are now up to 18 stitches, so I'll do another round, going back in through that middle, 1, 2 for increase, and then 1, 2, and that is our repeat 6 times around. I know some people like to stagger their increases so they don't get that hexagon shape or whatever number of increases you're doing for your pattern, but honestly I find it quite appealing and satisfying to have that nice line. Also, it makes it really easy later when you're counting rows to just have a line of increases and know exactly where you're at. I'll even, when I'm decreasing, match to the top increases so you get the pattern all the way down. So, a couple things about the Westgate stitch, especially pertaining to amigurumi, is that I do find that it creates a flatter shape since your rows are technically sometimes shorter since you're going in through the stitch instead of through the loop. So if you're making a really like you really want a ball shape, sometimes the 6 increases around isn't quite enough. Instead of changing a pattern and adding another increase or something, usually what I'll do is I'll throw in a row of single crochet every once in a while just to kind of extend the increases, and that'll give it more of a round shape. But since we're making Kero-Chan, who has kind of a little bit of a flatter head, maybe he doesn't, maybe I need to look at my reference photo again, but I don't find that he has an incredibly dome-shaped head. It's a little flatter, so I don't mind him having a softer curve to his head, but I also find that it's just as easy to mitigate this with stuffing. So when you're stuffing, kind of making sure that you're getting the shape that you want. This also can impact like the bottom, so when you're decreasing, it feels like it decreases much faster than a single crochet. So it really pulls in. So if you're looking to get a really nice rounded bottom when you're decreasing, I'll occasionally throw in a round of single crochet. So if I've got 36 stitches, I might do a decrease round to get down to 30 and then do a row of just single crochets. I do find that this is also really great for color work, but I think a lot of that just has to do with how bad my gauge is normally. So, okay, so, no, I still got one more increase to do. 1, 2. So if you're pretty new to amigurumi, I find there's a couple little tricks. They're not even tricks, they're just like every set of increases goes up by 1. And if you're doing 6 increases, you're going in, your times tables of 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. So our next round will be 36. So increase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The main thing is that, like, I don't know if you've ever had to count something small and repetitive, but the amount of times it's easy to lose track when you're counting like to 4 over and over again. If you want, you can use a stitch marker to keep track of the beginning of the round, but I find that just kind of like glancing ahead and being like, oh, okay, I've got 5 stitches here, so I know I'm doing 6, which means that I'm still on the right round and I haven't accidentally moved up to the next round. If I was stopping at 36, seeing that, oh, the next repeat row already has 36 or 6 stitches, so I'm at the end of the round. For this pattern, I'm going up to 42 stitches, which is like, if I've reached 42 stitches in an amigurumi, this is a size that's out of my wheelhouse. For time's sake, I much prefer like 36 tops. That is the size okay. So you can see there that I messed up a little bit and it's leaving a little bit more of a gap. So I'll undo that and just make sure that I'm going in through the right spot. For me, with a worsted weight yarn, 42 stitches is gonna give me like a fairly substantial piece, especially for a head. So this plush is probably going to end up 7-8 inches tall, plus he's got wings and the legs. So it's quite an involved process, but okay, I'm just going to finish 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so that is the end of round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to do one more increased round to get me up to 42. So I will meet you back here when I'm done with that. So as you can see, normally I feel like you'd be getting some shape here with single crochet, but a lot of our shape is going to come when we start those single crochet rounds and start really pulling it down. So if you wanted more of a dome shape already, you could have done 6, 12, 18, round of single crochet, 24, round of single crochet, 30, round of, and that would start bringing it down faster and making more of a rounded top. So I'm gonna finish up the last row of increases and then our 6 rows of single crochet, and then I will show you the decreases. Oh, I have done 6 rounds of Westgate stitch. So you can see this is my last increase, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the first one where I've gotten to 6, so I know it's time to stop. And so now we're going to start our decreases in the same pattern. So we're going to start with a decrease and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Westgate stitches. So for a decrease, we're going to go in through the 2 and up there, pull the yarn through, in through your 2 vertical, in the next stitch, pull the yarn through. So you'll have 3 loops on your hook and then you pull through all. So then you do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we'll do another repeat. So pull up, finish that decrease. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can see we're starting to come in a little bit, and it does look, it's quite squat. So when we stuff this, you'll get a little more of that shape. But as you can see, it's got a very knit appearance. I don't know, I just love it so much. I think if you turned it over, it would have more of a knit appearance, but since we're going to be working all the way down through the body in this same piece. We're going to start at the top down. So I'm going to carry on. So we're coming down to 36 stitches, and then in our next round we'll do a decrease, and then 4 Westgate stitches coming down to 30. And then I am going to stop at, I believe, 12. If you're following along with this pattern and wondering why I don't know what I'm doing, it's because I am developing the pattern as I record this from a photo because I lost the pattern a long time ago because I wrote this like 8 years ago. I should actually have one of the prototypes around here in my studio, but I have found Molang, I have found Gudetama, I've found Purin, all of my little weeb amigurumi creations, but I cannot find Kero in any. I had all of that stuff on one shelf, and for some reason Kero's gone missing. So someday. So once we get down to the kind of final round of the head, I'm gonna go ahead and put the eyes on and also actually stuff the head, which is a little bit kind of fiddly to work with when you're working on the body and you've got a big stuffed head. So you can't actually wait, since we're giving him quite a robust neck. It's not going to get so tight that you can't stuff it later. So maybe I'll see how that goes, see if I like that. Okay, so we have made it. This is the great thing about how repetitive these are. I don't count, I just keep doing my repeats until I get to my first decrease. And on the next round, I'll just keep doing my repeats, watching out for when I get to the first one that has 2 decreases, and then I know I am at the end of that round. So to decrease in a decrease with the Westgate stitch, I'm gonna go through the middle of the first loop, middle of the second loop, coming out between right here, pull up, and then go through the stitch next to it, pull up the yarn, and then come through all 3. This is the only time where I'm really actually putting much tension at all on my yarn. All of the tension that I put on it normally comes from just the friction here, which is why I cannot crochet like a normal person, because I've seen people that crochet with the yarn wrapped around their pinky fingers, and I just can't figure it out. I've been doing this for too long. My brain is broken. So this is our second round of decreases. So this round will have 30 stitches total. 3, 4. And then we'll do another decrease here. So in through, so that first loop, in through the middle of that, in through the middle of the next one, and up through. You've got a line on either side, and then in the stitch next to it, pull up a loop and pull through all 3. Actually, before we get too tight, I'm gonna go ahead and show you the inside. It's a fairly, it's almost a similar look on the inside, but they're staggered. So on the front side, you've got these nice clean rows, and then on the inside, they're staggered. But the reason why I do this stitch is look at how dense. Is this a terrible idea? You can't see through it. You can't get anything through it. So if you're making something for a kid, or especially a cat, because cats are terrible and will pull stuffing out of anything, like no matter, yes, now that I've stretched it massively, there's a little bit of light, but that's it. And it will go, when you stretch it the other way, you can massage it back into place. But it's so dense, it holds its shape. If you're making a bag, that's it. You've got your shape, it can fold, but you can pop it back out and it will hold its shape, it will sit up. I just really think it's an amazing stitch. So I'm gonna finish my decrease rounds, and then what I'll do for this is actually close the head just so that I can show you how I close the bottom and stuff it. So I'll go ahead and put the eyes in. So I'm gonna keep going until I get to 18, and then I will come back and show you how I put in safety eyes and how I close the bottom of this head. So we are done. I have made a UFO. I might have messed up. So I'm going to pick out some eyes. Kero's got quite small eyes, so I'm maybe gonna do something like that. Or we've also got those. So we'll try those, see how they feel. So I think I'm going in. So I've got the increase round 1, 2, 3. Let me Google. Realistically, that's quite, oh, his head is super round. Okay, so I might have to rework his head. So his eyes are the tiniest little things, apparently. So I'm going to, I don't know which direction these are supposed to go on, honestly. I feel like that makes the most sense. So even though these eyes, so that was incorrect. If you're using teeny tiny eyes, if you go in through the middle of a stitch, it'll be much better there. Since we're working in a spiral, technically if you line up the eyes straight across a row, they will end up a little uneven. Usually I find that that's fine and that it's nothing irritating, but if you want, you can absolutely, so like, I would go in here, but it feels a little high, so I'm gonna try to go in the one below it. And, I think I might actually scoot his eyes out further. As you can see, I absolutely don't pay attention to where my end is. This is not out of like any sort of plan. I just forgot. So instead of, so I'm gonna go up, I think. I don't know. Let's see. Yeah, that looks a little high. If I go through the yarn, which I try not to do, but I think for this guy with such little beady eyes, he almost needs them to be more accurate. That's not too shabby. Okay, so I'll put this, yeah. Okay. So, there we go. I'm not going to do his face until afterwards, just because I find it far easier to do it once it's stuffed and like full, so that you can, the whole body and everything, so that you can really see what expression you're going for, and if he like happens to sit a little weird, maybe make a face that goes along with it. I'm going to start with some polyfill and kind of push out with my thumbs so that I've got polyfill at the base, and then I'm just going to start taking cabbage to help fill that out because I don't particularly love using all of my polyfill for such a large piece when I've got so much cabbage sitting around. So this is just like fleece. Yes, a microfiber. I try to do softer stuff. I'm not gonna put like a duck cloth in here or anything. But as you can see, I had a UFO and now we are getting quite a nice round shape just with stuffing. If you're wanting a really soft plush toy, yeah, go polyfill all the way, but a lot of this stuff, I don't have friends that have kids, so a lot of this stuff is just for display, just for my own personal fun. Okay, so my camera's overheating, so I'll be back in a moment to show you how I finish this mess. Okay, so as we see, we've done our decrease rounds. What I did was at my 18 stitch rounds, I did a row of single crochet, and then at my 12 stitch round, I did a row of single crochet. So I've got 12 stitches, and we're going to do our last round here. But as you can see, adding those rounds really rounded out the bottom. So if we had wanted a rounder top, it might not have been a bad idea to do that up here as well. Usually I won't start until the 18, so 6, 12, 18, single crochet, 24, single crochet, because doing it at the peak gets you a little bit too pointy. As you can see here, this is getting a little pointy. So this last round is always a little tricky, and I feel like there's a better way to do it, and I just saw a little tutorial on a great way to finish Amigurumi, but I'm just going to show you the way I usually do it, which is to decrease every single round. And like I said, normally with this pattern, I wouldn't be doing this at all. I would be moving right into the body, and you might find that you're picking up a little bit of polyfill. I find that it's easier just to ignore that because it's not gonna stop. It's in there, you're gonna catch it. So I'll usually just pull it out afterwards and clean it up afterwards. So decreasing around. Okay, and so we've done our 6 decreases, and I am just going to slip stitch and cut ourselves a tail. And then, so this is one of those moments where those plastic needles would actually be useful. I find that they're not useful for much, but if you've got one, so I'm just going to, there we go. So then we can go ahead and whip stitch into every stitch around. It's not the nicest finish that's ever been achieved, but for a bottom that's going to be hidden, I think it's fine. And then we will secure that with a knot. And then to hide this end, I'm just going to push it through, pull that tight, and then when you cut it, it will spring back and you will not see it at all. So there we have our Kero head. Next, I'm going to probably work on the ears, just so that I can get his ear proportions right, which I think will help with the general, like, overall picture. So the ears are very similar, just doing the Westgate stitch and making little half circles that we'll stitch on here and here. But I will see you guys for that, but for now, there's a nice little Westgate stitch Amigurumi ball base. Maybe I should put a face on him.